So what they say is that in order to match that, because that's recording an audio,
Okay.
right? And this is obviously recording audio. You're supposed to clap. That way you can see the spike and you can match them up better.
Oh, cool.
I like to get a good clap in it, though.
That's good.
You like that?
Yeah, he's a good clapper. Good claps.
All right. And it's also like you don't have to look at the camera, but you can. We can look at each other, look wherever you want. I'll probably be looking off in space a lot. No big deal.
Okay.
All right. Hello, world. This is DJ Craven, and you're listening to the Craven Happiness Podcast. This is episode number 2. For all you listeners out there, I appreciate you sticking with me and making it to the second episode here. I have finally been able to have somebody say yes to my question of, will you be on my podcast? And what are we going to do? And I say, I have no idea. So without further ado, Justin Gray, thanks for coming on the podcast. I'll hand it over to you. Why don't you give a quick little intro, little context for the audience?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Justin Gray. I am currently working at Smith Gray Buick GMC in Meadville, Pennsylvania. It is my family's company. We can touch a little bit more on that in a little while. But yeah, I'm here to talk about happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Happiness is the theme. Thanks for stealing the thunder, Justin. Absolutely. That is why we're here. Happiness is something that I believe in a lot. And when I think of you, happy is definitely a word that I put in 3 words to describe you. So it made a perfect sense, for being the first guest. And again, I appreciate you saying yes to this again. It means a lot to me, and hopefully this means something. We get somebody to listen to it other than your and my family members.
Yeah.
So first question for you, Justin, as we get started here is is a kind of an oddball question, but just to kind of get a little context of kind of who you are and who you were and maybe where you got to today. I'd like to ask the question of describe yourself. Who were you on the playground? What kind of kid were you on the playground, or maybe in the lunchroom, and then maybe even if you wanted to progress into the party as we aged a little bit and became of age, hopefully legally.
Sure. Let's start with the playground. I played. I had fun. I was always out riding bikes, playing the games, getting people together to have fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy being around other people. I always have. I started at a very young age, just having that desire to have fun with others.
So the interaction with other people was big for you in your childhood and maybe even to today?
Yep, always. Lunchroom, pretty low key. I did enjoy my sandwiches and my gushers, sometimes fruit by the foot, but
yes.
I only got in trouble maybe once or twice, had to stand at the end of the table. There was one time I got sent to the stage, and that was pretty detrimental.
The stage, yeah, you don't want to go there.
No,
that's a bad thing.
I was at the stage, and
and just for everybody context in that, so I know what he's talking about. Justin's only a few years younger than me. We both went to the same elementary school, and the stage overlooked the lunchroom area, so everybody could then look up at you and know that you did something wrong.
Exactly.
It would put you there for shame, right?
Yep. And if the principal walked in, he always stopped to see what you did.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Principal Carnes, right?
To Principal Carnes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's funny. And then as far as the party goes, I enjoyed, again, just being around people. I wouldn't say necessarily the life of the party, but definitely was present when I was around people and just enjoyed myself. So.
Yeah, it always sounds like maybe the interaction between people. Would I be sensed to say of somewhat of maybe the peacekeeper more than the instigator?
Yes,
I would imagine. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. And so take us to the next step of kind of your journey. As far as obviously you're from here in Meadville. Graduated from Meadville. From Meadville, what is Justin Gray's kind of background and where he went? Again, just trying to give people some context of
sure.
Post-high school.
Yeah, post-high school. So throughout high school, I started playing guitar when I was in 4th grade. And music took a pretty big part in my life. I took private lessons from a gentleman named Mark Del Greco. Mm-hmm. Well, I really wanted to play saxophone.
Okay.
Because fourth grade was the grade that you could play an instrument.
And you got to tell me, I'd interject here, why the saxophone?
So my neighbor across the street, his name was Adam, and Adam was a few years older than I was, and he played the saxophone. So
okay.
I thought Adam was really cool.
Very cool. So it wasn't the...
Of course, saxophone was cool because Adam was cool. So
naturally, right? So it wasn't the brass that attracted you.
No,
okay. All right.
So my parents, I came home from school one day, and they said, Justin, instead of saxophone, how about you play guitar? And I couldn't thank them more now.
Start out with something
I think
simpler.
saxophone is pretty cool now, but at the time, I think guitar was definitely a good choice for me. But anyway, started playing guitar. Throughout high school, got into choir. Started singing with Marilyn Peters, and she was a pretty big part of my journey moving forward. Played in some bands, and also was on the hockey team. So, hockey and music don't necessarily jive sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I did them both and very much enjoyed my experiences. So after that, I ended up going to Mercyhurst College for a year and a term, roughly. And I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I really didn't. I ended up getting a decent scholarship to go sing, and my parents said, hey, take your scholarship. You don't know what you want to do. At least you can work on something you enjoy doing and figure it out while you're there. So after my first year, I switched into music education, thinking education would be good. My sister's a teacher. My brother-in-law's a teacher. And I was about a term in, and I was like, nope, this isn't for me. So I came home for Thanksgiving break, and I told my dad that I didn't want to go back to school.
How tough was that? I mean, again, you're talking about a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid, basically. Again, not that we're that much older than that, but how hard was that to have that conversation at that kind of age where you know the answer. You know the answer is not to continue this thing because you're just throwing money probably after, good after bad, so to speak. And so explain to me, kind of talk through how hard is that conversation and how does that go? Yeah,
the conversation actually with my dad was relatively easy. He's always been on my side, very encouraging. He knows that if I feel a certain way, then I feel that way for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So my dad really understood. He was the first person that I told and the last person that I told until we took the parts van up, moved all my stuff out of the apartment, and got home, and then I said that I wasn't going back to school, and then it was kind of a train wreck after that. But, just for a short while.
Right.
I think through other people's minds, they were thinking, oh my gosh, what is he going to do? He's not going to go back to school. What's going to happen? So they were more worried what my future was going to entail. But I had a pretty clear-cut idea of what I wanted to do. I loved music, but I didn't want to study that type of music. I was studying classical and opera. My principal instrument at school was voice. I wanted to get into music production and engineering. So I had my sights set on Berklee College of Music and Belmont University in Nashville. So
now, before you go there, I got a question for you. So how much, because you say you had a clear-cut conscious decision, and it kind of sounds like you weren't listening to some of the judgment, because ultimately that's what you're saying, is that there was judgment from others, basically impregnated on you, and you somewhat decided, well, I'm not going to worry about that. I know what I want, and I want to go there. So what was that kind of experience like for you, even looking back on it now? Because in the moment it probably might have been a lot different than looking back on it now, I imagine.
Absolutely. Looking back, I definitely have a clearer picture of everything that happened. I struggled with it when I was going through it,
certainly,
because the people that I felt, and I don't want to say necessarily judgmental, but I guess in a way it was judgmental. They were concerned for my well-being and what I was going to do, but the way that it made me feel, it was difficult. It was difficult to cope with. I was upset a lot at that point in time because I couldn't understand why people weren't happy for me.
Yes, there's the word.
I couldn't understand why people weren't excited, and they couldn't see why I wanted to do what I wanted to do and that I would be successful. But now when I look at the chain of events, and we'll get through some of these, every time that I had a win per
Right.
se,
Mm-hmm.
everyone would get on board with what I was doing.
Right.
Right. And then it would kind of trickle back down, and then I'd have a win or something significant would happen.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, he
And
can do
everyone
this.
was so
Yeah.
excited, so it was definitely a learning experience. But all in all, they were just worried about my well-being and my success and growing up.
And that's very cool, and I think it's very important. It's one of the points that I like to bring up a lot outside of obviously this. That this is most of the time first people are hearing me talk about this, and judgment of others onto you can dictate a lot of other people's of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that if you just look internally and kind of, it's one of those like trust your gut moments, and that means a lot. It really does mean a lot, and the fact that you were able to do that, and I didn't even know this story before we guys sat down here today. So this is phenomenal that you were able to to share that, and I'm just kind of really proud of you, because there's not a lot of people. Again, you're talking 19, 20-year-old person that's kind of find their way. That's pretty powerful to be able to do that. So anyway, so we're on to Nashville.
Yeah. Well, Boston.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep, on to Boston. So, my dad was my crutch. He believed in me. So he never
I can totally see that.
Yeah, and you know him pretty well. He was my crutch. He just said, he never put the business on me. He said, go do what you want to do. Follow what you want to do. And he gave me the means and ability to do that.
Right, because again, you say, not fall in the business. While you're making these decisions, you are, again, for the lack of a better term, a college dropout in people's eyes. Again, from the judgment side of things, from a negativity side, well, he'll just go work for his dad because his dad has a, successful business here in town, and he'll just go do that. And for your dad, you got to give him a huge amount of kudos to be able to understand that was not necessarily the right path at that time.
Yep. Yeah, it was
unbelievable.
Great. So I was a college dropout. I did end up working for my dad for a short amount of time. Kind of funny because at that point, I was really into John Mayer. I still think he's a great musician, but that was the time when he came out with Continuum and he had real long hair. So I was trying to grow my hair out real long. It was a mess. It was really bad. But I worked for him for a short amount of time. I was a service runner. It was nothing
glamorous.
No, not at all. So I was just running people back and forth from appointments, and I auditioned at Berkeley, which is where I wanted to go, and I auditioned at Belmont. Well, I didn't audition at Belmont, but I applied at Belmont, and I got into both schools.
Okay.
My parents really wanted me to go to Nashville. I don't know if you've ever been to Nashville.
I have not, actually, unfortunately.
Cool city.
Yeah, I've heard.
Nashville is it just feels a little bit more like Meadville.
Okay.
Smaller town feel, even though it's a city.
Hometown type of.
Boston, they would describe it as they felt like they fed me to the wolves.
Okay.
So, but I wanted to go to Berkeley, partially because I wanted to focus on my craft. Berkeley was more of I don't want to say because it's a college, but it was more of like a tech school. Because once I was in my major, I focused on that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a liberal arts school. I had some of those courses at Mercyhurst, and I did have to take certain classes, but it was primarily focused around music.
Right.
And it was the first time in my life that I actually excelled in school. I was a BC student in high school.
Right.
All I wanted to do was go to choir and play hockey.
Yeah.
But I had to sit down and do all the calculus homework.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It didn't fit with me.
Right.
But when I got to Berkeley, it clicked, and I was with 4,000 students that were like me.
They were all like you. I was just going to go there.
We in extremely eclectic bunch, but
well, I'm sure. I would imagine Berkeley.
But, and I was the minority at that school. We had students, and I'm sure they still do, from all over the world.
Right.
So I'd walk down the hall and I couldn't understand anything that anyone was saying, but I could sit down and I could play music with
right.
them. And I think that's pretty cool.
Universal language, right? I mean, regardless of the actual language of maybe the song being sung, it's a universal language.
Yeah, it is.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so I went to Berkeley, ultimately ended up getting a scholarship there, which kind of was a cherry on the cake, because with the scholarship it was like, okay.
It helps. Yeah, certainly doesn't hurt.
You can go and we'll figure it out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It really was. I ended up graduating with a degree in music production and engineering.
Okay.
Which was awesome. Boston was a fantastic city. And not aside from school, just moving away taught me a lot.
Yes.
About people,
Right.
about happiness,
Yes.
and things that can lead to happy, but it helped me find a little bit more about me, helped me
Right.
discover more about myself.
So a little bit of kind of looking in and what I like to call self-awareness and being able to look within. And I can totally relate to that because, I went to Penn State Barron, which is just up in Erie, where you're talking about Mercier's is just up in Erie. And we then moved from there to Raleigh, North Carolina. And you're talking about a culture change.
Yeah.
Again, Raleigh's not Boston.
Right.
But at the same time, it certainly is different than Meadville.
Yep.
And different than Northwest Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So it's something that is completely different, and that interaction with different people, it certainly gets you questioning things, that's for sure.
Yeah, it really does. But I very much enjoyed my time in Boston and the people that I met and the friends that I made. And I'm still friends with some of the kids
Yeah.
that I graduated with.
That's great.
So it was good.
Yeah, no, that's good. So when you say, kind of some of that, kind of looking within and anything specific, any kind of, event or anything that while you were up there at school, and then did you stay there after school then, or you left right out after school?
I stayed there for about 2 months after I graduated.
Okay, all right.
And then,
Anything specific up there that happened that was kind of a aha light bulb moment out there at all, as far as when you talk about kind of finding yourself and maybe finding your way at all?
yeah, I think being accepting of people, of
Okay.
all different
Yeah.
races, color, ethnicity.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
I think I found, coming from a small town of Meadville, we aren't exposed to a whole lot.
Not a whole
growing
lot,
up,
yeah.
right? But when I went to Boston, I experienced all of it.
Yes.
And I experienced all of it in the first day.
Right, yeah, I was just saying, probably quickly.
Yeah, and it opened my eyes to, there's a whole lot more, I don't want to say a whole lot more out there, but it opened my eyes to being open to other things than maybe what I think is right.
Right. Yep. I can
Because
understand
everybody
that.
has a perspective, everybody has a belief.
Yeah.
So I think it just really helped me be more accepting of
Yeah.
a lot.
And that makes sense. So just looking at the world differently. I mean, everybody's got a different, as you see, you mentioned the word perspective. I mean, that's a big word that I like to use as well. And looking at it from like a different lens almost, and being able to see things from other people's eyes. And
Yeah.
again, everybody's background. You and I were fortunate enough to have a pretty good childhood and pretty good raise in that regard. And there's a lot of people out there that haven't had that, and that certainly shapes people in a different way. But so anyway, so keep going. So you're graduating from Boston. You're fresh out of college. You are not crazy in debt because you got a scholarship. But at some point, you got to start feeding yourself.
At some point, you got to start feeding yourself. So I came home, and I didn't really have a plan. I was back and forth. Funny, I didn't have a plan.
Yeah, you didn't have a plan. Yeah.
I graduated. Now what am I gonna do?
Now what?
So while I was in school, I had a work-study job in the studios.
Okay.
And I had made a connection with one of the people that I worked for. His name was Joe. And Joe used to work out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And at the time, I was I wanted to work in a studio. I wanted to get that type of job. I wanted to track and make records. Right?
Okay.
And Joe, I went out to Los Angeles over spring break, and he had set up a couple of kind of meet and greets,
Okay.
and tours at some studios in LA.
Certainly.
So that was pretty cool. And when I got back to school after that, I was in my junior year. Are you following this?
Yes,
I think
I'm with you.
I'm hopping all over the
I
place.
got you.
So it was junior year.
I'm with you.
My dad said the summer going into my senior year, he said, Justin, you're not coming home this summer, because I started, when I transferred, I lost about a year, so I started going year round.
Okay.
So I had a summer where it was like, even though I was going year round, I had one summer where I didn't have to go to
Didn't have
school
to
that
be in
summer,
school.
so I could graduate at the same time as everyone
yeah.
else.
Right.
So he
Makes sense.
said, don't come home this summer, go somewhere and get a job,
Figure
go
it
to
out.
Nashville,
Yeah.
whatever. So
Taste the itch, right? I mean,
Exactly.
it's one of those. It's two sayings in one there that I like to do. But basically, scratch your itch and taste what you like, and
Yep.
just try it out. Which is again phenomenal advice.
yeah, so this was my first big aha moment.
Okay.
About not necessarily your education, but it's who you know
Yes.
in networking.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman that would come up and golf in the Meadville Medical Center golf outing.
Okay.
His name was Rusty Crowe, and he was a Tennessee state senator.
Oh, okay.
He golfed with
Didn't know
my
that.
dad.
Okay.
Well, it just so happened that Tennessee, Rusty knew some people in the music industry, and Rusty helped me get an internship at ASCAP
Okay.
on Music Row. So that's what I did the summer going into my senior year.
Okay. So kind of like a mini internship, you would say, or mini job for a few months.
Yep. Yep. So I lived in Nashville for 3 years, and when I got back, finished my senior year, and then it was, what do I do now?
Right. Yeah.
So fast forward,
Right.
here we are.
Rewind,
I was
I'm
going
back
to go to
again,
LA, and now I just spent some time in Nashville.
Right.
Okay. That was the point when I said, you know what? I don't know anyone in Los Angeles, but all of my friends are moving to Nashville, and at least I know some people in Nashville.
Right.
Because I lived there for 3 months.
Right.
So I decided to go to Nashville, and I moved down, was living on my friend's couch,
Okay.
staying on his couch.
Yeah.
So I got there and I said, I got to find a place to live within a week, and I need to get a job within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And within the first 4 days, I had a place to live and I had my first job. So,
Awesome. So things are going well.
yeah, they were going well. And, you know, interesting because the experiences in Nashville were great, but the side of being in school, you almost felt like you were in a bubble because we had all these wonderful musicians at our disposal.
Right.
And all, I mean, state-of-the-art gear, studios.
Certainly,
everything
yeah,
there,
right.
Right?
That-
Well,
Get out of
now
school.
I'm out, and
Now what?
everyone wants paid
Yeah.
to play on your
Right.
stuff now, and you know you're working off of a home studio with
Right.
a little interface and whatever else you could afford to
Yeah.
get at the time. So,
Totally makes sense.
whole different thing. In hindsight, they should have like a here's what's might happen
Yeah, here's
when you
what's
get out of
gonna happen.
school.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, let's learn how to build a decent home studio and track on that. How do
Right.
you make records on that? So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe they have it now. I don't know.
You're an alumni. You usually have to pull, right? You got to talk to them.
Yeah, doubt it. So, but yeah, I lived in Nashville for I think 3 years.
Now, when you say you got a job and you kind of got a place, I would imagine that it's not like you were going and living in what Carrie Underwood lives in now, or anything like that outside of Nashville. So I mean, you're modestly living, I would imagine, and you're kind of doing somewhat of the grind. And what's your mindset at that point when you think you can make this in some sort of manner because you got the energy, right? You've got the drive and all of that. But at the same time, was there ever a point there where you're kind of looking around of like, all right, what am I doing here?
Oh yeah. Partially, a little bit of that is why I ended up home, a little bit. But I was able to network, and I really ended up working for some really great people, people that live in Nashville or move to Nashville. They dream of being with and working for, and
right.
I was able to actually get myself in and make
Network,
some of those
yeah.
connections, and I'm grateful for that time because the people that I worked for were awesome.
Yeah.
The experiences, the people that I met because of it, I mean, just incredible.
Not hard to probably imagine. Again, we go back 10 minutes ago when you're talking about the kid on the playground and the kid in the party. Like,
Yeah.
You're mingling with these people. The fact that you're good at networking is probably not much of a surprise.
Yeah, I think it's from my grandma Eileen.
Yeah. The gift of gab.
Oh man, we'd be in the grocery store, didn't matter. She talked to everybody.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
I learned from her. But, it's networking was a big thing for me, but there were times, I remember when I got my first real job.
Yeah,
I'd
right.
say, quote unquote, and I called my dad, and I was ecstatic.
Sure.
Because I got my first real job, and I told him what I was going to get paid, and it's like the wind just sucked out.
Oh,
of his
really?
lung, right? I mean, and I couldn't figure out why, but I was so green at that time
Yeah.
that I was just excited I got a job.
Yes.
Well, now in hindsight, I realized I was actually making below poverty level on a salary job, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, but at the time it didn't matter because I got a job and I
Yeah.
was just working on Music Row, and that was it.
And that was
the
enough for you to be happy at that point. And that's that's kind of a sublet of this whole thing of sometimes it's not necessarily how many zeros you bring in.
Yeah.
Granted, there's a math and some accounting equations there.
Oh, sure.
The innie goey and the outie coming type of thing. Those
Yeah.
have to add up a little bit in your favor.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. That was a larger company that I worked for. And then I really wanted to get into the creative side, and I was able to, I heard about an opportunity from actually one of the gentlemen that I interned for.
Okay.
He said, hey, this is open.
Yeah.
You know, if you want, I can put your name in and you can take it from there, right? However that conversation went. But he was a great guy. And like, I must have done well enough for him that he thought highly of me and thought that I would be.
At least he would somewhat stick his neck out for you and give you a recommendation.
Yep. So I ended up working for a publishing company, coincidentally with a management company as well. And it was incredible. And it was a really small group.
Okay.
There were it's a large company globally,
right?
But the Nashville office was very small. And it was incredible. Everyone just jived. It worked. I learned a ton while I was there. I loved going to work. It was the work-life balance. Everyone was generally really happy all the time, in a good mood.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But there was a lot of good stuff that was going on there.
Yeah.
And I was happy to be part of it.
Oh, that's good. And I would imagine that close knit group like that. Again, I can see somebody of your personality being able to thrive and something like that. And I guess maybe anybody would. A part of being happiness is the people that are around you, right? So if you can surround yourself with happy people, then that tends to wear off. If you're surrounding yourself with negative people, that's also going to tend to wear off, right?
Yep.
So the fact that you were able to find yourself, in a good position like that is not surprising that you were enjoying it yourself.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've got a job in Nashville. We're chugging along. Anything else in Nashville that was noteworthy? While you're there, obviously we're in Meadville now, not in Nashville.
Right.
So eventually you made your way back home, but I got a feeling there was something in Nashville that might have been something worthy of note while you were in Nashville. Anything that you may have tried out for or anything like that while you were down there? Or is that was not down there? That was
in Boston.
Oh, that was in Boston. Okay.
Yep. So I tried out for American Idol. I think it was season 10. Not 100% sure.
Yeah. Okay. Don't fact check.
Yeah. I tried out for American Idol when I was in Boston,
and that would have been while you were in school?
I was in school.
And what year would you have been then during the
I think I would have been a junior.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it would have been. I know. I was a junior that year.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And then open auditions were there, and somehow again I don't talking about what year that was, but it's not like you saw it all over the internet. How did you find out? I mean, obviously we all knew what American Idol was, but
sure,
you sought it out. It sought you out. What's the story there of kind of why you got to the audition?
My friends sought me out.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So we had a free weekend, and I had some friends that were singers. We were our principal instrument was voice, and they were going.
Okay.
And it was pretty much get on the train or get off.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go do something that weekend.
Right.
So we went and got a hotel room, and it was actually over at like Foxborough where the Patriots played.
Okay.
That's where it was held. So
yeah.
We got a hotel room, which is also the night the Penguins won the Stanley Cup.
No kidding.
Yep.
So this would have been, doing my math, this would have been when they won it in 2009? 2008?
Yeah. It would have been 2009.
2009, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. It would have been, okay.
So
same year I got married.
Oh, yeah. Good year, huh?
Yeah, great year.
So, we went over, and auditions, I mean, stupid early in the morning. We were up waiting in line the whole day. Anyway, I made it through that audition.
Okay.
And then I got to go on. The next auditions happened, over the next couple of months.
Okay.
So. But out of the group, I kept going.
Right, out of the group of your buddies, you're saying. So,
right.
So they made it with you as well.
So one other person made it with me through the first round.
Okay.
And then after the second round, I was the one that kept going.
You were the only one that kept going.
Yeah.
And where in those rounds were what everybody just would know of, like when the taped auditions? I mean, is that the first audition as you're in front of the panel, or is there another audition before that?
There's before you actually get to the judges, there's several
auditions before that
happen over the course of time. I don't know what happens now, but to think, I think there were 175,000 people that tried out that year. So you can't see everybody.
Exactly, and I would imagine that. That's why I was kind of asking.
But crazy experience, and it was kind of funny because I didn't necessarily want to try out. I just wanted to go do something that
Right,
weekend.
yeah.
So kind of surreal that I just kept going through.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was able to get the golden ticket.
Right.
And I went out to Hollywood. I got cut in Hollywood, which I was fine. I was like, oh, thank
Yeah, right. It was more of a relief for you at that point?
yeah. You know, I was excited about what I was doing in school. I really, in hindsight, I think I was extremely nervous.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily know how to cope with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of put it all on the back burner, like, whatever happens, happens.
Okay.
If I look, looking back now, I wish I would have taken it maybe a little bit more seriously.
Okay. It's understandable. I mean, again, we're talking, somebody you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Early 20s, not necessarily knowing what's going on. It's completely obviously acceptable. And so, how does that whole experience, at all translate into, maybe what you do now or, going forward? How does that experience, I mean, like you said, that's a big stage. I mean, most people in the world don't get to that stage. There's a small percentage that get to that point. And, how does that kind of help you at all, going forward at all? Anything that is there?
Yeah. Put all your effort into what you have going on, because you never know where it can lead you.
Right.
That I feel like I was in that moment, but I didn't necessarily look past that moment.
Okay.
And I didn't really put a whole lot of effort into it.
I like that.
I try harder.
Yeah.
Try as hard as you can. Because regardless if it works out or if it doesn't, at least you can look back and say, I did everything that I possibly could have done, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm looking back now saying, I wish I would have done more.
Could have tried a little harder.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's great advice, because that's obviously something that you could tell anybody, for anything looking back of that things. And I'm sure we all have those stories, maybe not to that magnitude of in the public eye, but but anyways, okay. So kind of going back to Nashville. You've got a job in Nashville. You are bringing in enough income, but at some point you end up back here in Meadville. So tell me that story of why, how.
Pretty simply, I didn't make it home very often. Never had a direct flight from Nashville to Pittsburgh or Cleveland.
Okay, yeah.
So, and they were always expensive at that time.
Yeah.
And the only way that I would get home is if I drove, and it was about a 10-hour drive.
Oof, yeah.
I just couldn't come home very often.
Right.
So, my sister was pregnant.
Okay.
And she had her first baby while I was in Nashville.
Okay.
And I knew the due date, but she was like a week early. So I flew home. I had that planned.
Yeah.
So I flew home and met my niece, Claire, as a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that about a week after that trip home, I was home for another wedding. And like 2 weeks after that, I was home for another wedding. So,
okay.
So every time I got home, she had grown into a little bit bigger nugget,
right,
and a little bit, and then she was a peanut.
Yeah, right, absolutely, yeah.
It's crazy. So when I flew back to Nashville after that third time home, I loved what I was doing there, and I loved what I was, the opportunities and who I was with, and I really do think if I stayed there, it would continue to progress. I would think that it would. I would hope that it would.
Yeah.
But I think I was a bit lonely.
Okay.
When I was there, I went down with friends, and friends got girlfriends,
yeah,
friends got boyfriends,
yeah,
right? And I was kind of by myself. I still have my friends, but I didn't have anyone to share my life with at that point. I was pretty much there. I would work, I would go home. I would go home, I'd write some songs, right?
Yeah.
I had snippets of really great things, but I spent a lot of time by myself. And I think a combination of all that, I was a little bit homesick. Okay. I had a brand new niece at home. I had all of my friends that I was friends with in high school, best friends, early friends, young friends,
right, yeah,
right? Playground friends,
right, even longer friends.
Yeah, we're they're all around here, and I flew back and I was driving home from the airport, and I said, I'm gonna go home. I just feel like I had another gut feeling of this is what I'm supposed to do right now.
Right.
So that's how I ended up home. I had some conversation with my parents, and my dad said, "Hey, whatever you want to do
Right.
is fine.
What you want to do, yeah.
And we had talked about, what are you going to do?
Right, yeah.
Because you can come home, but
Right, yeah,
you got to do something.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's kind of funny because I was back in that same situation because I was like,
Right.
I was getting are you sure you want to do this?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you should.
Yeah.
And then I was also getting come on home. I was getting both sides of it, so I was torn.
Right.
I didn't really know what to do. But he said, hey, if you want to try the business, by all means, I'm happy to have you, and I'll teach you everything I can possibly teach you.
Right.
So I moved home, and last month was 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 6 years, basically 3 times. You kind of had that now what type of moment. So you've certainly experienced that a bunch here, and well, that's it's great to hear that. Obviously, you're here in Meadville, and we're glad to have you here. So you're here. You guys have a great business here. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, family owned. Give a quick little history of Smith Gray, as you will, if you can go through that.
Sure thing. My grandfather, Bud Gray, started Smith Gray back in 1965. Well, let's jump back a little bit before that. He was kind of an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Always.
Yeah.
He had a paint and wallpaper store and was very successful, sold it. Ended up buying the Lamplighter, which is across from the Market House Hunting Fishing Club.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So that was like a pretty high-class bar restaurant
Right.
In his day.
Okay.
Successful, sold it.
Yeah.
And then he started selling cars for Warren Smith, which was Warren C. Smith Motors, which was where the Semaphore was, and across the street, which is now Petruso Audiology.
Yeah, right. Which there was
which was
donut
Mr.
place
Donut,
there. Yeah, right, yeah.
Lego shop and everything. That was the car shop. That was the car dealership. And my grandfather enjoyed it. He bought into it. Okay. In the 60s, he wanted to move the dealership up here, from what I understand.
Okay.
Okay. Nothing was developed here.
Yeah,
He
this was
was a visionary. He could see that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Warren Smith was older than him. My grandfather bought him out.
Okay.
Moved the dealership up here.
Nice.
Okay, that was 65. Around 65. And then my dad was the youngest of 4. So his oldest brother, Bill, was 14 years older than he was.
Okay.
Okay.
So big span there.
Dick was 9. Carol Ann was 6.
Yeah.
Okay? My dad was still in high school. My grandfather passed away when he was 16. But Bill and Dick were working here.
Okay.
At the dealership at the time.
Yeah.
In their 20s.
Right.
Okay. So grandfather passed away. Bill and Dick asked if they could have a shot.
Yeah.
Right. Wish granted, and here we are, over 50 years later.
Right. That's awesome.
Still in business. So.
So am I getting that right? So you represent the 3rd generation.
That's correct.
As well. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So, talk to me a little bit about I'm, as some of you may know, I'm a part of a generational company as well. My brother-in-law represents the 3rd generation as well. Again, roughly the same general time period.
Mm-hmm.
That one started about 59 years ago as well. So we're right in the same general time period here in Meadville, which is kind of crazy. I didn't realize that the generations lined up as well as they did. Talk to me a little bit about, and again, trying to somewhat of some of the happiness and self-awareness and appreciation and perspective and some of the patience that goes along with working in a family business. And there's so many questions there, and granted, we don't want to keep the audience too much longer here, as we want to.
We could go on forever.
We could probably be here all night. Just give me some snippets of what your views are, and in that light of just again the family environment, and also being a business, and it's a never-ending thing.
Sure. One, working with my dad has been great. We definitely have had some ups and downs, and I don't want to say downs, disagreements.
Certainly.
Sure. Especially early on. We can get into disc assessment.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
That really helped us out.
Yeah.
When we realized that we're different people, 2 different people,
Mm-hmm.
that was the biggest thing for us.
Right.
We may have 2 different routes, but end up at the same destination.
Yeah.
Right? So that was a pretty good thing. But we work well together 99% of the time,
Which is a good thing.
we have pretty great communication lines, but that goes way back. all the way from when I was...
From your childhood.
Exactly.
From him raising you.
Yep. And he's taught me a ton. He's given me the opportunity. He sent me back to dealer school, NADA Academy.
Right.
Which he attended with me, which was pretty phenomenal.
And he had already taken it?
No.
Okay.
No, and he'll tell you, if I could have done this 30 years ago, I would have run a completely different store.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
But the simple fact that he and I went together, we learned at the same time,
Yep.
we learned the same material, and we could come back and work on it together.
That's
a team.
great.
So that was pretty cool. Coming from a family dealership, I had to prove myself when I moved home, for sure. Some of the employees at the time that I had moved home had been here since before I was born.
Right.
They've since retired, but yeah, we have some longevity here.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it wasn't easy. I would say the first 2 years, I really had to prove that I wasn't just coming home for 6 months
Right.
and heading back to wherever I was going, right?
You also probably had the stigmatism of like, well, you're the owner's son and you're just going to get special privileges and you have to work actually extra hard to be able to gain other people's respect.
Yeah.
And that is something that is very difficult to overcome, certainly in your position.
Yeah. Interesting time, but hey, I prevailed. It's been great. I've made friends, and I've learned a ton. I'm so grateful for my dad and giving me the opportunity, but also to put his time and effort into teaching me and helping me grow.
Yeah.
I used to hear, boy, I wish you would have taken some business courses in college, and it's like, no, I'm glad I got my business education here.
Yeah.
Because I think I learned a whole lot more.
I'm sure, and there's nothing like being able to work with family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very difficult challenge, yes, but there's just nothing else like it, and it's not everybody could do it either. So I do commend you in that regard, because it can be difficult, but it can be so much more rewarding.
Oh yeah, and when I came home, we both had an agreement, a very simple agreement. If we worked well together, great. If we don't, then we need to figure that out.
Yeah, right. Very quickly.
But it was very simply, you were never going to do this, Justin. So I don't have a succession plan for you.
Right.
Right? If this isn't right for you, it's okay if you go.
Yeah.
If you enjoy it and you stick around, great. If it's time for me to retire and do whatever, I won't leave you high and dry.
Right.
If you want to continue doing it, great. I'll help you out in any way that I possibly can.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's great.
And that's part of why he's given me the skill set with school and sending me to Dealer Academy. And
right, yeah.
He wants me to be able to succeed.
He's investing in you and kind of proving that with action.
Yeah.
Again, as he clearly did all the way through Mercyhurst and Berkeley and then Nashville and then back at home. So you would expect probably nothing less of him. So, well, that's great. So again, just a couple things that maybe we dive specific and just some I'll say halfway rapid fire questions here as we get close to wrapping it up. And what does, in Justin's eyes, success look like?
I'm trying to figure that out every day.
We all are, right?
Success. I had a roommate. His name was Eric, and Eric was 10 years older than I was when I lived with him. So early 20s, he was early 30s.
Right.
Okay. To me, at that point, he was old, but now I'm his age.
Yeah, right.
I was there.
Right. And so, guess what? You don't feel old, do you?
No, kind of interesting. But I used to ask him questions, and he would rapid fire me. And I never really got it in my early 20s, but I get it now.
Yeah.
And he would say, he would ask me, he says, what is success? Or he'd say, what do you want in life? I'd say, I want to be successful, right? And he'd say, well, what is successful?
So he'd call you out on it.
He would.
Yeah.
And all I had was an empty word.
Right.
I just wanted to be successful.
Right.
I don't necessarily know what success is in my eyes, but I know that success isn't, more or less, what is success not?
Okay,
right?
I got it, yeah.
I don't think you can measure success, well, some people can't measure success on how much money they make.
Certainly.
Right? I think more or less I would try and measure it based on how I feel internally, on my happiness, however you measure happiness.
Right.
And it goes into things like my relationship with God, my relationships with my family and friends. What am I doing to contribute and help people every day?
Yeah.
Whether it's in the workplace or out of the workplace, how am I helping other people in a relational way? I made some notes.
There you go.
Goodness.
Health,
good. Physical and mental health.
Yes. Health is big. Health is something for me, and not to interject, and you can certainly keep going. And health is something for me that's almost top of the list of things. If you were to wish something on somebody, that would be it, right? Because if you're not healthy, if your family's not healthy, nothing else really matters. I mean, from a perspective standpoint, nothing else matters. Yeah. I mean, if you have your health and you've got your X number, 1 to 10 people that are the closest to you and they're healthy, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So
bet your bottom dollar.
Yeah, right. That's right. You would know the rest of that line. I guess I wasn't thinking about that. I didn't know the rest of that line. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. A partner. Success. If part of your goals in life are to have a family, have a wife, have a family, that could be success in your eyes.
Absolutely.
Right? It goes on and on and on. I really wrote down just some, dogs. I love my dogs.
There you go.
I don't have kids, but I have my first puppy, and he just turned 1 year old, and I feel successful with him. Yeah. I've raised him from a little pup, and I love him to death, and he learns from me. I also feed him and let him out to bat him, and he relies on me.
Right, absolutely.
I think all that stuff can be lumped into it, but I think success is different for everybody.
Absolutely, there's without a question. Without a question, it's different for everybody. And if you think about it, of what you said, and again, stop me if I'm wrong, you basically said, so your success is based on some of your happiness. And the reality of then, if you dive into that of like, okay, well, what is happiness? Happiness is different for every person. Happiness for you could be singing songs. I mean, you don't want me behind a mic and a guitar, and I mean, not even close, right? I mean, it's not even close to something that you would want me to do, nor would I want to do it, right? Like, I don't have happiness in that. And that's the point that I want to drive home. This whole thing and this whole journey that I'm doing is that happiness looks different for everybody, and somebody's happiness shouldn't be judged based on somebody else's opinion from the outside. Because I think there's a lot of reality of a lot of people don't know other people like they do, think they do. Yeah. And we're close to a lot of people, and even some of those people that we're really close to, we don't necessarily really know all about them. I mean, there's some people that we might know a little bit about, but you think about how many people that you interact with that you think you kind of know, you don't really know them that well. Right. And being able to project your happiness on them is just not how it works. Yep. It's just not how it works.
Yep. Now, some of your happiness can spread like wildfire, and just being around and having a smile, right?
Yes.
Can help somebody's happiness. Yeah. Maybe not happiness, but mood.
Certainly.
Which can translate to happiness too, I guess. I don't know.
Optimism. Yep. Being optimistic with things. Again, you're dealing with somebody that's pessimistic all the time, day in and day out. That could be pretty draining.
Yep. Yeah, it really can be. I actually wrote the people that you surround yourself with, which I think you touched on earlier. But
absolutely.
Really, why put yourself in a situation or put yourself around people that are negative all the time? Yeah, it's just clouding yourself with a bunch of nonsense you don't need. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's hard to swim out of those clouds too.
Oh yeah, then that's the other thing. I guess that's a good point. You brought it up. Is it's not easy to be happy.
No.
Right? It's a lot easier to be negative. It's a lot easier to complain.
Right.
It's not as easy to, whether it's turning another cheek or whether it's just saying, you know what, I'm going to be happy today. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to look at this as a glass half full and not half empty.
Right.
And it takes a lot of work. And I like to, kind of paraphrase it of, whatever work you put in and whatever way you define work, because work can be defined in a lot of ways. I don't mean that this is what you get a job for. Whatever work you put in should map what your ambitions are. Yeah. Because if you don't do that, it's just like anything that you go in life, and the best way to look at it for me is for, let's just say, working out and trying to be healthy. If you want to work out and you want to be really, really healthy, well, don't eat the foods that don't do well, and you need to work out, right? So if you don't do that, you're not going to all of a sudden just get healthy,
Right.
It's not that hard of a concept. Like, you can't just sit and think about push-ups and then all of a sudden you're good at push-ups, right? You have to act on them and do the push-ups.
Wait, let me think.
Yeah, right. So anyways, to digress on all of that. Well, I think that this was a very success. I appreciate it. Anything from again, we're here at Smith Gray. We're in the conference room, and anything that from a Smith Gray perspective that you want to your time to plug here of what's the anything major coming up with Smith Gray, or anything that you have going on that that you want to plug here at this for just the last couple minutes before we say
Sure. 2020 models are out and coming out.
Okay.
And it's Smith Gray Buick GMC. So our two franchises now are Buick and GMC, and we have an extremely nice product. I mean, exceptional product.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what's new and what's been redesigned. Our Sierra truck just got fully redesigned from the ground up. Our Terrain just got redesigned. Our Acadia, we're about to have our first 2020 Land. It has a facelift and some pretty major changes.
Nice.
Looks awesome. We have a new Buick Enclave. We're getting a new Encore GX, which is bigger than an Encore and smaller than an Envision, so it's a whole new segment. There's constant new product going on, and we think cell phones change fast. Well, cars are changing every bit as fast as cell phones now. So very excited about our product line. General Motors constantly is having really great incentives every month. It's come and see the product. Even if you think that Buick is an old person's car, it's not.
It's not. I can attest to that. I've seen them.
I've personally had a Buick in the past, and it's incredible. It really is. So they're trying to rebrand and change their image, and I think they've done an exceptional job with that. I still think there's the old person car in there, and yes, old people still drive them.
Right. Yeah. Well, old people still drive Fury, right?
Operate all the computer and tech stuff, But it's an awesome product, both Buick and GMC.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad thank you for doing this. I think this was awesome.
Yeah.
We'll at least get our parents and siblings to listen to it, and hopefully somebody else does it someday. And I appreciate you doing it. So everybody, thanks for listening. Again, you're listening to the Craven Happiness Podcast. This is DJ Craven. We'll see you on the other side. Thanks, my man.
You're welcome.
That was a lot longer than I was expecting, but I didn't know what to expect.
I could keep going too.